Well, good evening. Well, oh, sorry, it's on repeat. Hang on. First cock-up of the night. There will be no more cock-ups tonight. That's it. Welcome to all in Corgi land. I'm here by myself tonight, which is why there's there's already been a cock-up. I can only blame it on myself. Can't blame it on anyone else. We're here. We're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Alienated Nations, the title track. But before we do that, of course, we're going to spin the record. Here we go. Up on screen.
You're all adrift at sea, no harbor to be found. Is that all you can be? Don't you long for solid ground? Your hands are out of line. You're running from the past. You're running out of time, unless you can run real fast. Alienated nations, you've been free to roam, but you're our lost relations, so won't you come back home? Alienated nations, you may dance to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back soon. I said you better come back soon. The bear that once was weak will soon again be mighty. He's polishing his teeth and counting down from 3. Alienated nations, you've been free to roam, but you're our lost relations, so won't you come back home? Alienated nations, you may dance to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back, the curtains pull back, the stages of blood red moon. You better come back, they're playing the entr'acte. You better come back soon. You're all adrift at sea, no harbor to be found. Is that all you can be? Don't you long for solid ground? Yeah, you've been out of line, preparing for the flood. Beware the march on time and a future that's stained with blood. Alienated nations, yeah, you've been free to roam, but you're our lost relations. Won't you come back home? You may be dancing to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back, you better run back, you better come back soon.
Oh, nice little round of applause for that one. Alienated Nations, obviously the title track from my album Alienated Nations, but also, of course, part of Putin and Trump the musical. Alienated Nations, of course, is about Putin wanting to get back all of the other countries that his predecessors lost. He never really forgave them for that, and he's kind of pretty well documented for saying so. So who knows what's going to happen? We see everything playing out in America the way it is, and God knows what might happen. I think it'll be okay as long as Trump gets his minerals. As long as he gets his minerals, it'll be all right, you know. there we are. So there's a couple of people who are kind of had to leave us quickly. Ingo's had to leave us quickly. Rick's about to leave us, but hopefully, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're gonna do the competition quite quickly. Give you a chance, Rick. You never know. But like always, you know, the questions are not particularly easy. Sometimes not straightforward. So the prize this week. And some of you may already have this, in which case we're going to have to think of a different prize. The prize is Putin and Trump, the script with the DVD. But there's also a download with that. For those that don't know, that if you don't do DVD, you haven't got a DVD player, there's a code to download whatever format you want. We've got kind of really high res up to 4K, something like that, of all of the videos from the whole of Putin and Trump, the musical. And it's quite good. We watched it on our TV at home and just played it too, and it was like, oh, this is really good. It's because I did all the videos separately, but when you look at them all together, it's like, oh, that's quite good, that is. So, yeah, there we are. Putin and Trump, the musical. The script, if anyone reckons they can win that, let's see if we can get a winner for this competition. I'm going to stick it up on screen here. And you say, oh, there we are. Okay, 2 seconds. Go. And this one is, which came first, the song or the album title? Which came first, the song or the album title? And we always have a tiebreaker these days because these questions are far too easy sometimes. For the tiebreaker, who played the bass guitar on Alienated Nations? Or we mean the song, yeah? Not the whole album. Who played bass guitar on Alienated Nations? And which came first, the song or the album title? It's an either or, you know. It shouldn't be too difficult, should it? There we go. I'm going to come back down off screen. You've got that. So you can put your thinking caps on, maybe have a wild stab. Wild stab in the dark. While you're doing that, we had a couple of things. From Putin and Trump, the musical. I put together this little Looney Tunes thing that you can see there for the end of it. So the end of the script. It's, that's all, folks. From the two loonies themselves. There we are. Sorry. Right, now I got it. So back down to me. And there we are. That's a competition question. We'll look forward to seeing if anyone has any righteous guesses for that. In the meantime, we're gonna play something we had a couple of requests for. And in fact, I was with Paul Griffin the last 3 days. We've just done 3 days worth of recording. We've done 6 songs. That's pretty good, isn't it? 3 days worth of recording. And he was saying, do you know that version of Something About the Beatles with the Korgis, the Korgis and orchestra, is like the best version I've heard. And I kind of got to agree. There's something about the orchestra on it, the strings on it. It takes it really into that kind of Beatles kind of territory, that huge All You Need Is Love, you know, and the Walrus, that kind of sound. So yeah, no problems with playing that again. This of course is the video that I did for it. I do plan to do some more videos from the orchestra thing, but they require quite a lot of mixing. It's quite hard. It was set up in a too short a time, really. We could have done with a whole day to do that setup. So a very short a time. But some of it sounds really good, and others I'll just have to try and tweak. We'll see if I might be able to get an album out of it. Anyway, here is Something About the Beatles, the Korgis and Orchestra, or the Korgestra, as we call it.
Why did the apple fall to the ground? Where have all the flowers gone? Who fired the shotgun when love was all around? Were we only sleeping? I don't know, but I do. don't know.
There it was, something about the Beatles. Yeah, great fun doing that concert. I had to do an awful lot of writing before we got to that gig. Although we had some string and brass parts for some of them, we certainly didn't have them for all. And whatever we had brass parts for, we generally didn't have string parts for. Whatever we had string parts for, we didn't have brass. Yeah, I took a wee bit of writing. There we are, but great fun and a great result, especially for that song. Just I think that came out really well, really brilliant. Scott, you were having some issues. Hopefully it's fine. Hopefully everyone else can still see and hear us all right. I assuming that the issues are maybe just Scott's end. Maybe it's Scotland. Maybe it got bizarre weather or something out there. Okay, so Alienated Nations. The one thing that I would say about this song is I wrote it on guitar, and I really should have written it on keyboard because it's a stupidly complicated song. With some simple principles, but it was complicated. Anyone who knows much about music knows you're normally in a major key or a minor key. Well, this one shifts between C minor and C major all the time. So for instance, the chorus you've got alienated and should just go to C, really shouldn't, but it doesn't. It goes to F minor with a G bass, not even with a C bass. Then we go to F minor, then we go to E minor, and then we're back into C temporarily. Weird. And the verse is worse. If anything, the verse goes all over the place. If anyone's interested in playing that and they want the chords, I can give them a quick chord chart. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, in fact, I have written charts for all of them. I play them live on my gig. But it was good fun. I knew I was onto something when I had it. I thought, yeah, this is a kind of interesting song. The reason it changed between major and minor is because I'm mixing up major and minor mode. So the chords that belong to the minor key you can also use in the major key, and it kind of skews things a little bit. It's a classical technique, I'll have you know. All the classical composers used it all the time. They used to change keys and stuff like that, switch into a minor mode, and then they switch somewhere else. So yeah, it's all good fun. But that particular song was complicated, and when it came to doing the rehearsals for the gig, and the backing vocal, it was like both Elaine and Daniel were, oh my God. So which prompted me to put up online a little picture, because Danielle had once complained that I was a harmony torturer. So I thought I'd put him up this little picture here of vocal torturing sessions for 2025, of which there will be lots of these. But the one in particular that we're talking about is this one, and this is us and the girl. This is me and the girls doing rehearsal for Alienated Nations. Here it is on the screen. Alienated Nations, the finale. Piece of cake.
Wish it was the finale.
1, 2, 3.
Alienated nations, yeah, you've been free to roam, but you're at lost relations.
I think, should we do it one more time? 1, 2, 3.
Alienated nations, yeah, you've been free to roam, but you're at lost relations. Oh, won't you come back, alienated nations? You may be dancing to your own tune, but I'm running out on patience now. You better come back, you better run back, you better come back soon. I knew you could do it.
Very nice. It always tickles me that last note, that minor soon. We always laughed out every time after we did that. So yeah, it's complicated. The harmonies are complicated. The music is complicated. There's not very many parts on it. There's not that many instruments on the whole of this track. And perhaps we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look. I was having a little hunt around earlier, and I discovered a couple of interesting things. Danielle came across and shared the backing vocal blocks with me. She added to the ones that I'd already stuck on. Because what always happens is I put them on really quickly without very much attention to detail. And they're a bit ropey, but it's to get the idea done. And sometimes my intention is, oh yeah, I'll go back and I'll make them a little better afterwards. By the time you put the instruments on, you go, oh, actually they sound okay. And especially once I've added Danielle into the mix, who does things perfectly, of course, over the top of my ropey vocals, then it all sounds great. It all sounds really good. So I'm gonna put Sonar up on screen here. We'll leave the mic on. I'll maybe twist this around a little, so I've got to be careful. It's got a mind of its own. Yeah. Okay, so that'll be good. So up on screen, sorry, I'll make it as big as I can. Right up at the top here, there we go. There's all our regular back-in vocals. Maybe if we pick chorus 2 or something like that. And you'll see this is how ropey mine are.
Alienated nations. Won't you come back home?
Bit low for me.
Alienated nations.
Okay, and so this is Danielle's block, which of course is perfect. Listen to this.
Alienated nations.
But all together, they sound like this.
Alienated nations.
Lovely. And then the middle 8 is Peace to Resistance.
Better come back, the curtains pull back, the stage is a blood red moon. You better come back, they're playing the on-track. You better come back.
There, Alienated Nations. That's good. I'm trying to think. There's a little vocal at the end. Oh yeah, the stuff. I then decided to change a couple of lines on the last chorus. So listen to what happens here. I might need to put the lead vocal in here, but I'll see what it's like with just the backing vocals at the moment. See what
Alienated nations.
Same there, but here.
You're a lost relations.
Won't you come back?
Alienated
Nations.
Yeah, so with the lead vocal in with them, or the lead vocals in with them, you get more of this kind of effect. And there's a couple of things I did with the lead vocal here, but I'll let you know.
Alienated nations. Yeah, you've been free to roam, but you're a lost relations. Won't you come back home? Alienated nations. You may be dancing to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back. You better run back. You better come back.
And quite an interesting little thing right at the end there. That soon, if you listen carefully, you'll hear it is accompanied by the sound of a snake. Or the voice from hell, whichever you like. I've used that on several different occasions where just get close to the mic, put a load of echo on it, and make it sound as menacing as possible, and you get that idea. Like this. So loads of echo, and of course you get that kind of going off all over the place. What I was going to point out with the lead vocal is, one, there's echo on all of this lead vocal all the way through it, which just different to reverb. It has a different sort of ambience to it. Has a more rock kind of ambience to it. So you get this kind of sound.
And a future that's stained with blood. Alienated nations. Yeah, you've been free to roam.
And the reason that You've Been Free to Roam sounds a little bit different is because that's doubled. It has me singing the same thing twice, and I've turned the second one down a little bit, so they're not quite equal to each other, but it really thickens it out. People like Elton John would often double vocals. He would, Yellow Brick Road, the whole of that chorus is doubled, so he would often double bits. James often doubles some of his voice and not others. And sometimes you try it out, and sometimes you go, actually, it's worse with it double. It doesn't work as well. The other one there is the other high thing I did on there. It's probably for safety reasons I decided to double it, which was this here.
Won't you come back home? You may be dancing to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now.
Etc. So there we are. There's how the vocals sound. But not too much trickery there. A little bit of echo, kind of bit of tubbling, and lots of three-part harmony. Paul, of course, went bananas on this with the kit. I'll show you a little bit in context, but this stuff, very good.
Alienated nations. Yeah, you've been free to roam, but you're a lost relation. Won't you come back? Alienated nations. You may be dancing to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back. You better run back. You better come back.
Sorry, a question there from JBD from Florida. Lovely, thank you for joining us from Florida. This is actually Cakewalk. It started off as Cakewalk way back about 20 years ago. It then turned into Sonar for a while, and then a BandLab bought it, and they turned it back into Cakewalk. And apparently they're going to re-release it as Sonar or something like that. But anyway, it's Cakewalk. It's very similar to Logical Cubase, same kind of thing. If you look at the screen, you could be forgiven for thinking it was one of the others, other than the fact that it's a bit more colorful. Some of that is I've made it a bit more colorful because I'm not too keen on gray screens everywhere, gray boxes, gray on gray, light gray, dark gray. So yeah, all of my stuff is a wee bit more colorful. I just find it a little easier to get your way round to all of these. So yeah, there we are. And someone said, yeah, that is kind of effective, isn't it? It is effective, Paul. Yeah, it's the doubling of those vocals. It just changes the center of attention as well. Through it, where some are doubled, some are not. Having the echo on it instead of the reverb is a different sort of ambience, altogether. There's only a couple of keyboards on here. There's not really very much, but the main synth is the sound of this song, really. If you've got this, here, the chorus here. Oh, sorry, that's not it. Where are we? Session. Let's not finding these. Right down here, I think. Yeah, I think it was this expand that I used. A very old kind of 80s kind of sound, but it makes it sound kind of grand. And the reason some of those chords sound a little bit odd is because there's no bass notes in that, and sometimes whenever you've got the third in a chord, or you've got the third in a bass, you don't really want it in the chord. So every now and then those chords go a bit bare, but of course they don't when everything's going all at once. And I think then the other thing in here is the piano, and you can really actually hear what this chord sequence is when you hear the piano doing it. So this is just the piano. So yeah, between those two keyboards, that really is it. I mean, it does an interesting thing, the piano in the verses, in the fact that it has a kind of clock effect. And that's because the lyrics are actually talking about you running out of time. Your hands are out of line, meaning the hands of a clock are out of line. So I'll just put a dim solo on here. So.
Bear that once was weak will soon again be mighty. He's polishing his teeth and counting down from 3. Alienated Nations.
So yeah, probably it might have got the idea from Coldplay. You know, their song Clocks, where they use that similar type of affair with a effect with a piano. JB is saying, what synth? That is actually, it's just, it's something called Expand, and it really is just a sample player. There are some, you've got some control over attacks and releases and cutoff frequency and stuff like that, but essentially it's a whole collection of 20,000 sounds or something like that in a box. So it's often one that I go to because I know pretty much I'm going to find it. Not as much for real instruments, so I was going for orchestral instruments. I'd use some other things, or the real thing, of course, wherever possible. So yeah, that's all kind of interesting. And then the only other thing really on this track are a couple of guitars. I think there's 3 guitars overall, hardly anything really. The main guitar, of course, is the one that kind of sets the tone for it. This. Particularly overdriven sound. Again, it's got echo on it. Timed echo, set to a beat. And I juxtaposed that with another guitar that went opposite it, that did offbeats, which is more of a Les Paul kind of thing. So between those two, that sounds pretty big by itself, doesn't it? You know, it's quite amazing there. And then, oh yeah, there's one other. Oh no, I think that's just a solo guitar. And yeah, there's again a solo guitar. I'll show you this in context. This is what it sounds like. It's quite complicated, the solo. Yeah, so there's a few different influences in that solo, but probably my favorite one was where I kind of nick a little bit of Hendrix. Not this next one coming up. It's a sort of thing he would have done. Yeah, that's it. That's it. There's not, none of the parts. There's a lot of moving chords, but none of the parts are that complicated. I think if you look down where I was on that solo in the middle of the screen, you'll probably see I've just highlighted or lowlighted it there. It was done. And anyone that's worked with me will know that often I will get some of it and then I'll cut and paste some other things in. I might drop in some stuff in the middle. So it looks like there was about 8 different sections there that I worked on. It could have been that I actually played them in much bigger sections, but then actually went in and kind of, perfected it a little bit more. In fact, could be interesting. There's one underneath there. Let's see how bad this is, shall we? This is one that hasn't been fixed. Sorry, I'm going to put a solo on it. Oh yeah, rubbish that is. But a similar idea. So yeah, there was I just felt like it really, I was repeating myself and went into that, which is why I put the Hendrix thing in. I felt it was a little bit more interesting. So there we are, there's the Sonar songs. I'm going to come back down to me. Come back down here. This mic really has a life of its own today. I really must get a new one of these stands, but hey, let's hopefully it'll stay for a little while. Competition question. Did we get any more answers? Paul, I saw that your answer come in. I'm going to go once more back to the competition question. I'm going to stick it up on screen, especially as JB, I don't know whether you were there when we did this competition. If you weren't, the prize is Putin and Trump, the musical, the script, and full DVD of the whole thing. It's only about 25 minutes long or something like that. And it was written way before the Ukraine war or any of that kind of stuff. It was more about when there was all the talk about, did Putin help to get Trump in on that first time that he was elected? And it turns out that they reckon there was some collusion, or there was certainly some tampering, whether it's just fake news or not, who knows. But it was more a bit of fun than it was. The stuff that's going on now is way more serious than that musical is, I'll tell you that. So I'm going to put it up on the screen. Oh, free ticket. All right. Okay. Sorry. Yes. Rick Lovering. So, okay. Cheers, Rick. Have a good evening. Have a good concert, and I will see you at the Bath gig. Good man. Competition question. Going back up. If I can find it. There it is. There it is. Okay. So, competition question is: which came first, the song or the album title? So this is Alienated Nations, which is also the title of the album. Which came first, the song or the album title? And for the tiebreaker, who played the bass guitar on Alienated Nations? Who played the bass guitar on Alienated Nations? You might have noticed I didn't go and solo the bass too much on there because I didn't want to give the game away. Anyway, so see if anyone else can have some guesses to a little bit of fun. There we are. I'm going to come back down. Come back down to me. Some little bits of news we had. Sorry, I'll just make sure I haven't missed anything out. Yeah, we were going to show you, we have the final cover for the American album. So yeah, JB, we are releasing an American album called Coffee in New York. It's got some stuff from our older albums. It's got a couple of things from my recent album and a couple of things from Joe Matera, one of my Australian collaborators. And the album's going to be called Coffee in New York. The song Coffee in New York was on our Ununited Nations Red album, as most people know, but this is a newer version, so we've upped it. We've got strings on it. We played that last week. I'll probably play it again for you next week, because I've got cello going down tomorrow and then mixing it, probably during the day before the live stream next week, mixing that, so you hear the final mix of it. But here we are. Here is the album cover for Coffee in New York. And I don't know how well you can see that. It will depend on whether you're looking at phones or not. So I might just zoom in a little bit to give you a fighting chance. If we go there, obviously we're all in a speedboat as the Korgis. But because this is also an album that features Joe and some of my stuff as well, I figured for clarity we had to have us. So there is Joe. With his bandana being the Statue of Liberty. I thought that's quite fun. And of course, I am climbing up the Empire State as King Kong. I got Carrie to put me on a furry suit for that, which, again, I thought was quite funny. She didn't want to, but I thought was quite funny, so I thought we would do that. And there we are. So hopefully that is going to be the album cover. I'm still actually awaiting record company approval for that. And we'll see how it goes. It's going to be released on vinyl and CD, so should be good, and it would be great to have a wee bit more profile in America. You know, most of the people in America know everybody's got to learn sometime. Half of them only because of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and Beck's version, of course, on that. But a good version that was as well. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the cover there. James is going to be on, hopefully on next week's live stream. I know I said that last week, he was supposed to be on this one, but some things turned up for him this week, but he's not busy next week, so he'll come across. We're going to do that mixing of Coffee in New York, and then he'll come on a live stream there. And we will zone in on the song Long Way Down, which is one of the first songs that James and I wrote together. We wrote that and Happy Man almost at the same time, and I think we got together and worked on both of them at the same time. Probably Happy Man we wrote more by ourselves and put it together in the studio, whereas Long Way Down, a lot of it was written as we went along, like the middle eight was written with just both set in the same room. And I think it is a particularly good song. It's of course very, very much a country song, or a modern country song at least, which is not something really the Korgis get involved with, so that's why it ended up on my album. So we'll be looking at that one next week, and there'll be a brand new video for that as well. That's quite fun. So he'll be on next week's live stream. We're going to play another song from Putin and Trump the musical, but this is the Korgis version. This was, of course, a bit of a hit single for us on the Heritage chart. I don't know whether it get to number 4. Did this even get to number 1? No, I think it got number 4. Oppenheimer got to number 1, didn't it? This is us playing Good Old Days of the Cold War from the Login Lounge at Camberley. Here we go, a couple of months ago. I'm going to put it up on screen.
So we're going to have a bit of fun now. We've just done a couple of new albums, a double album in fact. The blue album, then the red album, is called Ununited Nations. And one of the songs on the very first release, the blue album, takes a sort of cheeky and slightly irreverent look at Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin, and I think you might appreciate some of the images on the video, but if you fancy a bit of a bop around, this is quite a fun song. This is called Good Old Days of the Cold War.
Days
you very much.
Here we are, good old days of the
In 1989,
Cold War.
we
Sorry,
were
I'm going
approached
to turn that off. We were on for a little while after that. Yeah, very good. A great fun track to play that live. We're kind of still doing that in the set at the moment. Very good fun. Something I'd written on my list to say is a lot of people say to me, what is mastering? What do you do when you master? Because James and I are mixing and mastering Coffee, or rather I'll be mastering the whole of the album. But a lot of the Korgis tracks are already done because they were already done previously. However, one of the things we are going to change is the mastering on Cartoon World was different to the mastering on Ununited Nations. And we prefer it on Ununited Nations. Well, it's nice to think you're going somewhere positive, isn't it? Yeah, we prefer it. It's the bottom end is a little clearer and stuff, and it's not quite so middly as Cartoon World. So we may well remaster some of those tracks on Cartoon World. So that will be an interesting thing. So mastering process, if you take things to a mastering house, what used to happen is bands would often record in different studios. So they come and they'd be different standards altogether. Mastering engineer's job was to sit them all together so they felt like they belonged on the same record, or at least even if they were completely different styles, that tonally they sat together and volume-wise they sat together. Because there is no real industry standard, there's no real industry standard for mastering. All you can say is that there's some common practice, there's some standards that people seem to adhere to, but there is no guidebook for it. So when I do the mastering, it's quite simple here, really, because everything has been recorded in the studio. So the sounds are all the same. So I don't need to sit them together. We just need to make sure the volumes are right. But I use a couple of things for mastering. I always use a multi-band limiter or a multi-band compressor, which basically, a compressor just squashes the sound. Okay, but what a multi-band does is it squashes that bit of the bass end, and then the higher bass end will squash that independently. Middle will squash independently, top squash independently, and the very high top independently. And you can rebalance the sound of the whole thing by how much any of those bands are compressed. Like anything, too much compression is not a particularly nice sound, and certainly when we master for vinyl, we relax a lot of compressors off and just let it breathe. Try to get it to sound much more retro, much more like a late 70s kind of thing, which is a golden period of where everyone said that, you know, vinyl sounded the best. So, you know, that's what we kind of go for. There's some things that multi-band compressors do that are not so desirable when you compress all the really low bass end. You get stuff that goes on forever, and I normally get rid of that afterwards. And then, you know, at the end of the chain, there's a bit of a brick wall limiter, which just stops everything overloading. But you can push that a little bit and make it louder, make a track louder, compared, you know, to the others if you need to. You know, the big album that was compressed to hell but still sounded quite good was the big Oasis album, What's the Story, Morning Glory. If you look at the wave of that, it's just like that. But it doesn't sound, it sounds actually quite good. So whoever mastered that did a good job. To say they wanted the loudest album they could possibly get. That's when the loudness walls were at their maximum, of course. Thankfully, grown up a little bit from that. So that's nice. So that's kind of mastering in a nutshell. If anyone wants to know a wee bit more about exactly the process of how I would approach the multi-band limiting and stuff like that, or mastering, then yeah, give me a shout. You could always give us a shout here on the live stream, but also, like JB, I know you'll find the technical stuff quite interesting. If you do want to email us, the easiest way to do it is just, if you go to thekorgis.com, make sure it's a K, thekorgis.com, there's a contact us form, and that comes straight through to the Korgis email. And so ask away. Happy to share any knowledge. You know, you just started with as a Fruity Loops. I think it was Fruity Loops you said you were starting with. So good luck, and yeah, let us know if I can give you any tips. I will. And we always do this every week, sort of go through the mastering or the process of recording, etc., etc. It's all quite interesting. What else is there? Of course, we have pre-festival in Bath on the 22nd of this month. I think we're only playing for about 40 minutes or something, but there's a lot of really great people on the gig, on the bill, so worth coming across to Bath. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they're there. I think Sunday you do have to buy tickets for. It's the magic numbers on Sunday, but Beth Rowley and stuff. So it'll be a great happening weekend in Bath. So call across there if you can. Yeah. Close to. Oh, sorry, I've got something there. Sorry, what kind of guitar effect? Sounds cool. Sorry. Oh, you're talking about the live thing? Good old days of the Cold War. I use Line 6 guitars mainly for live, or certainly for that good old days of the Cold War. I was using a Line 6, which is it's a digital guitar. You can't really tell. Sounds very much like Fender. You switch in a Les Paul, it sounds like a Les Paul. Switch in a 335, Gibson 335, it'll sound like that. I have a Gibson that is very like a 335. It's a slight variation on it, but often I use the Line 6 because I can't be bothered getting it out of the case. It sounds that good. They're brilliant tools, and to use that I use a Line 6 effects unit because when you stamp on the effects unit, it changes the guitar sound and stuff as well. So the two work in tandem with each other. Just makes the life easy. Not the top notch, you can buy much more expensive effects unit, but I use minimal effects on things. I like the kind of raw guitar sound to kind of show through a little bit more. I'd rather things go blang than things go like that. Too much distortion. And you can kind of lose it all. So yeah, that was it. I think for good old days of the Cold War, I was using generally a Strat through it. But at the end, that last chord that went bling was a Telecaster on middle pickup. So yeah, all three pickups. There we are. I'm just going to check these. Oh, Digger's here. Good man. How you doing, Chris? Good to see you. Lovely. We do of course have a video for Alienated Nations, and this features an animated Putin who's gone to see a psychiatrist, and this is quite an interesting thing. This is because the actual way that this is animated is kind of is very weird. It's a program called called Revive. I'm going to stick this up on screen. And essentially, I've got a still picture, and you put it through Revive, which is just a phone app, and if you sing down it, his lips will lip sync it, and you'll hear me singing this very badly because I'm doing it late at night. I think Carrie's asleep or something like that, and I'm trying to do this video, so I just make that full screen, and so I'm lip syncing it. Of course, he lip syncs to me. It's a bit like this.
Was weak. Will soon again be mighty. He's polishing his teeth and counting down from 3.
So it's very cool. It's a very cool effect. I've used it a couple of times for it. I used it for actually good old days of the Cold War for animating Putin singing, and it will do any of it. So it's a great little tool there. So you will see that in the video that there's a few different bits of Putin being animated as he sits at his psychiatrist's couch and she asks him what's bothering him. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. I don't think we've had any more. We did have a second competition stab. I think the first one was Paul, and the second one was before he went. Oh no, it's Michael. Yeah, you're saying it's a bit early for me to think. Yeah, it's very early in the morning in Australia. But thanks for joining us, Michael. What I will say, I'm going to get the competition question back up, and I'm going to give you the answer, and we're going to say who's won. Okay, back up on screen. Which came first, the song or the album title? And for the tiebreaker, who played the bass guitar on Alienated Nations? Well, the tiebreaker didn't really come into play, as both of you got the tiebreaker question wrong, but I'll come back to that. Which came first, the song or the album title. And actually, I'm going to come back down to me here. It was the album title. Long before, when we were doing the ALienated Nations albums, I always jokingly said, because I was always going to do an album of mine after that, it was supposed to be one ALienated Nations album and one of mine. And I jokingly thought, we'll call it ALienated Nations because it's got my name in it. It's got Al in it, hasn't it? So that title was around for ages. And it wasn't until kind of, I think I had all the other songs on the album. And I was finishing off some of the songs for Putin and Trump the musical, and it just occurred to me, it's like ALienated Nations, that's perfect for Putin talking about all of the countries that he wants to get back. And so, yeah, I wrote it almost as an afterthought. I just thought there should be a song called ALienated Nations. And so that's why some people go, well, it's a bit weird because that's part of Putin and Trump the musical and kind of on your album, but it's, you know, yeah, the Putin and Trump the musical is more like bonus tracks on it. So, yeah, it is all a bit weird. That's because it was done in a completely random way. But, yes, ALienated Nations, the album title came first. Okay, the tiebreaker, who played the bass guitar on ALienated Nations? Nobody played the bass guitar on it because there is no bass guitar on it. It's a bass synth on it. It goes dun, 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 dun. And you're right, in a way, I did play that. But there's no bass guitar on it. It's bass synth. And if you'd listened close, you would have gone, oh, yeah, that's not real bass, is it? It's all just going back, like you rhythmics would have done, really. That kind of thing. So there we are. So Paul Griffin, you have won because you were definitely the first, you were the only person to get that one right. So I have to find you a different prize because I know you've got Putin and Trump, the script and the DVD. So we'll have to find you something. Find you something else. We'll talk. Your people will talk to my people. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it quits there. I will just have another check. Oh, software for the animation. Okay, so Digger. So Chris Hopkins is on this live stream, and he has been doing a new mix of End of an Era Feeling, of which he's had a million different tracks to mix, and I've just sent him a load more stuff. And he's saying he's here, he's having a break from mixing. I don't know how many days he's been mixing it for, but it is a monster track, and I can't wait to hear what you do with it, Chris. It should be, that'll be great fun. JB, animation, it's the animation, that animation software is just a phone app called Revive. I think I did actually pay for it. There's a free version of it, but I don't think it could do vocal sync with the free version of it. And so I only use it occasionally, but it is handy for that. My main video software is actually stupidly Nero Video. And Nero Video is not a renowned piece of software, but it is very easy to use. It's quick and easy to use. There's lots of different effects, and it's really drag and drop. I know Carrie, my other half, uses Adobe Premiere Pro. She uses Premiere Pro. Nigel Boyle uses Final Cut. And I know both of those are a wee bit more complicated in terms of putting effects on, but you can do more with them, must be said. There are certain things that I really can't do with Nero Video. Every now and then I have to give something to Carrie and go, can you do this for me? And then shoot it back to me. Like reverse the film. I can't make a film go backwards, which that's a huge compliment. If anyone from Nero Video, the company Nero, are watching, sort that out. Make us able to reverse a video. It's quite a fundamental thing. So yeah, that's what I use. All sorts of different things. We'll do all the normal stuff like green screen. In fact, many of these videos have lots of instances of green screen on. Not so much this one, because this one is all kind of animation, not so much live action. Next week, it's pretty much all live action. I've already got the stuff from James. I've done the stuff from me. So yeah, you'll see that. All right, so I think I will grab this video. We'll show you how that looks, and I'll catch you all next week. Love to see a couple of new people here this week. Brilliant. And please do get in touch if you need any more pointers for anything or want me to clarify anything. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stick the video back up on screen, and this is Alienated Nation. Bye all!
You're all adrift at sea, no harbor to be found. Is that all you can be? Don't you long for solid ground? Your hands are out of line, you're running from the past, you're running out of time, unless you can run real fast. Alienated nations, you've been free to roam, but you're our lost relations, so won't you come back home? Alienated nations, you may dance to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back soon. I said you better come back soon. The bear that once was weak will soon again be mighty. He's polishing his teeth and counting down from 3. Alienated nations, you've been free to roam, but you're our lost relations, so won't you come back home? Alienated nations, you may dance to your own tune, but I'm running out of patience now. You better come back, the curtains pull back, the stages of the red room. You better come back, they're playing the entr'acte. You better come back You're all adrift at sea, no harbor to be found. Is that all you can be? Don't you long for solid ground? Yeah, you